Hello everybody, it's Chibi, and today I'm here to bring you a manga chapter review of the Taizai greatness. So we have two major points in this chapter that's really vital. One thing I just want to say is Meliodas. That right there is what I want to cover first. Meliodas, he uses his sacred treasure at the beginning of this chapter. And with this sacred treasure, we find out some of the power he can use. And he demonstrates a duplication type ability that wipes out Albion. Now, here's the thing. When I was looking at the duplication ability, I didn't know really what to peg it as. Like, I didn't know if it was because of Meliodas' speed, or did he, was he moving so fast he was able to make different type of clones, or was it something like shadow clones? Like, I really couldn't peg it to figure out what it really was until I got a good glance at the chapter. So I want to point out something, because some of you might have missed it, because I missed it in my first read. I had to read it again just to make sure. In one panel, when you see, the clones coming back down at Meliodas when he's done, he destroyed Albion, he just completely wrecked it, you'll see how Meliodas lands, he puts a sacred treasure like this, and you see, a sacred treasure in full view. And if you look at the sacred treasure close enough, you will see 5 holes. 5 holes in the sacred treasure. And if you look closely, you will see like some form of wind going into these holes. And if you look closely, you will see how the duplications of Meliodas was kind of going in to those holes. And if you count the duplications, like all the Meliodases in the panels, you will count a total of 5. So, Meliodas can only have 5 duplications at once, but he only used 4. So, he only used 4 in this chapter, and he has 5 holes in his blade. So we can assume maybe one of those holes represent the real Meliodas and the other 4 are duplications. Or maybe he only used 4 and he didn't even use his maximum power. We can get either vice versa from that. But from the way the power is demonstrated, you can either assume A, that the power is type of wind-based, because the way they kind of went into the holes of the sacred treasure, it looks like it's some form of wind-based attack. So Meliodas has some form of wind attack or something like that. But whatever it was, is the holes on his sacred treasure represent how many duplications Meliodas can use at one given time. And from what we see in this chapter and demonstrated, he can use full counter with each of these duplicates. That's scary as fuck. That's straight up scary as fuck. Because we know how Meliodas is with his full counter. Like, he can't use it repeatedly one after another when it comes to, like, multiple attacks. And to see how this was done, like, how multiple Meliodas there can do one attack at once, that's crazy. That's straight up crazy. Like, the blast radius of what Meliodas did, like, the damage he did to Albion in this chapter, he wrecked that demon freaking machine. That machine didn't stand no chance. It didn't. Like, it straight up didn't. Because the blast radius of what Meliodas did, oh my god. Like, I expected Meliodas to wipe the floor with this creature. I really did, because, I mean, he got a sacred treasure. We know Meliodas has now been able to use his full power since the very beginning of the series. He's never truly used his full power because he's never had a proper weapon. He still doesn't really even have his maximum power since he doesn't have his full demon mode under control yet, and supposedly Merlin still has something of Meliodas. Now, a lot of you Chibits are theorizing that it might be Meliodas' memories, which that could be possible. That might be possible, but we'll have to see how that goes. I personally believe that has something to do with Meliodas' demonic power. Like, to have full control of his demonic power when he goes into, his full maximum mode. But regardless of that, the main thing was to see the damage that Meliodas can inflict with his duplicates, with his sacred treasure, against this, like, creature, this golem that's actually at the exact same power level as Hindi, is fucking ridiculous. Because imagine if Meliodas would have had this sacred treasure in the Kingdom Infiltration arc. Just imagine real quick. Just picture that in your mind. If Meliodas had this weapon on him when he went to go fight Hindi, when he went into the Grey Demon mode, Hindi would have been done. He would have been done. He would have been a smear on the road. Like, straight up. That is crazy. It just goes to show you how strong Meliodas is at the end of the day. I mean, we all knew he was powerful because of what he did to Danafor and put the hole in the ground. Now it's starting to make a lot more sense after seeing the blast radius of what Meliodas can do. Because, you know, Danafor, as we know, the freaking miles in the ground, like, I think it was 10,000 miles deep, wasn't it like that? I think that's what the, you know, Ten Commandments said. But regardless of that, just the blast radius of Danafor, how big it was, now it's starting to make sense after seeing how Meliodas can do something like this. But it makes me wonder, what type of attack did Meliodas use to cause that type of damage to Danafor? Or, here, let's think about this. What creature, or Balor, for instance, what attack, or how big was the attack that someone used against Meliodas that he used full counter on? That is the question we have to think right now, because the only way I could see how that hole was that massive at Danafor is if Meliodas used full counter on an incredibly large-ass attack, or something like that. Maybe we've had it wrong. Maybe Meliodas didn't really destroy Danafor. Maybe he full countered a move or something with a large enemy, a Balor, for instance, and the hole in the city blew up. That's a possibility, because seeing how he can now reflect this amount of damage in this, it just goes to show you he could possibly reflect a lot more. Now, moving past that point, that's the first half of the chapter. It's a very simple, basic first half of the chapter. The second half, however, you got a lot of things building up there. And one thing I want to point out, actually, there's two things. You have Bon, he's sacrificing his blood to the actual world tree, or the fairy tree, to let it grow. And as we know, the World Tree or the Fairy Forest will not grow anymore because the Fountain of Youth is gone, because Bon, you know, drunk it, and, you know, the Fairy Forest died. And so the only way that the Fairy Forest will continue to grow is if Bon comes back every so often, slits his wrist or whatever, and, you know, gives blood to the tree. And it will continue to grow and be nourished and stuff like that. So Bon, at the moment, is just like food for the Fairy Forest. That's all he is. And if you think about it, it's kind of fucked up, because Bon, he's not really a legitimate fairy king, because he's just food for the fairy forest. And even Bon states in the chapter, like, he's not a proper king, and also he's not really doing it for the forest, he's doing it for Elaine, you know, his lover he wants to resurrect. So, overall, on top of that little discussion, Bon kind of doing stuff like that was just really shocking, how he was just giving blood up to the tree. It was just a really weird panel when you see something like that. Bon just sacrificing some of his blood to the forest. Now, one thing I want to point out. With the dialogue after Bon, you have this new character introduced. I think his name is, Gerard, or whatever his name is. I know I'm butchering the name, don't kill me. But we see this new character introduced, and we don't really necessarily know if this new character, this new fairy, is a boy or a girl. I'm assuming it's a boy, because Bon says, like, shouldn't you be the next fairy king, since you've been well known for quite a long time? You've always been, like, the advisor or helper of the fairy king. So, this person's been around for quite a long time. This little fairy dude, or fairy girl, or whoever it is, because we really don't know about the hairstyle and stuff like that. But this person's been around. And this person's always been the advisor or helper of the fairy king. And in the chapter, this person even states that King would even make a better fairy king than Bon. Now, what's really weird about this is, where was this dude at when the fairy forest was destroyed? Where's this dude been? Like, the fairy forest got destroyed by the Red Demon when Bon, you know, was there. He was getting the Fountain of Youth. Elaine was there by herself, supposedly, from what we could see. Where was this dude? Was he trying to hunt down King? I mean, King wasn't that hard to find. He was just in a kingdom. So, where was this dude or girl, wherever this person was? Like, what the fuck was this person doing the entire time? Like, why wasn't this person helping out Helbram at all? So, very shady. Very, very, very shady character, I will say, with this chapter, because the way the introduction is done, the way we find out this person is the right hand or the advisor of the Fairy King for many generations, and then supposedly just now we find out about this person? Something makes me assume something else is going on here, and this person is not probably what all appears with this chapter. Now, moving past that, you have it to where King in this chapter, he's deciding he wants to go back to the kingdom. He's trying to, you know, use his Black Hound and teleport back, and that's pretty much what's going on there. So that's the chapter. That's a chapter in the nutshell. Like, it's a really, really simple chapter of Taizai this week. It is. Now, I have a couple things I do want to Furycraft later on this week about, because there's been a lot of Fury's been building up recently with, Galther and, being a doll, like, holy fuck. And then, the overall board with the popularity board with King winning with a landslide. There's a couple things I do want to discuss in some future discussion videos, but at the moment, I want to end the review here. Very good chapter. Loved it. Really fucking loved it, because a lot of setup, a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of shady characters being introduced. Just let me know in the comments below how you feel about it. You all have a wonderful day or not, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.